Okay, Storytelling Ron. I'm here with Anthony. We don't know each other at all. I
Not at
mean,
all.
you. I guess you contacted me on because I'm doing that little silly little Kickstarter, and I
Yeah,
appreciate you just contacting me about my ideas and then your ideas, and I kind of got intrigued. Um, so we'll start with that. So I am. I'm gonna go hyperbole here. I still like I don't want to do angels and demons, like as a
right,
role
right.
playing game or whatever. That
Yeah,
was my
yeah,
whole idea. I wanted, to do the us on the ground. I wanted to
right.
explore that because I don't know anything about that. I really didn't when I was figuring out my role playing game and all that, or
Sure.
trying to figure it all out. But and I've always seen sort of the Christian iconography of iconograph or whatever of angels and demons whenever I
Sure.
see kind of fantasy, Christian fantasy. And
Right,
so that's kind of where I was like, I want to try to do the guys on the boots on the ground getting
right.
messed up. But so when you brought up yours, and I don't know, for some reason I wasn't turned off. I was turned on by the little bit you said, and
Yeah.
so I wanted to hear more about it. So now here we are. And so
Well, I definitely want to. Yeah, I was gonna say I want to comment at some point. Make sure we don't miss talking about different ways of actually incorporating looking at, evaluating, exploring faith within the role playing game. Because I think there's a couple very valid things going on there. And I'm actually a little spoiler. I'm about to release a video on my own thing, hopefully today, and it deals with it in the video. It briefly touches on how some other faith-based RPGs handle some things, and you do it differently. So it
yeah.
was something that kind of excited me, and I wanted to explore. Yeah,
Yeah. So you have I didn't even know you had a YouTube channel. Do you have a YouTube channel?
yeah. So it's budding. I have like
Okay.
game tutorials on there right now, and
Yeah.
I'm making a series called Insights that just kind of give, just
Cool.
like what you do. Yeah,
My,
yeah.
my I
Just
have a
a little more
YouTube channel, but
informal.
I would describe it as floundering, as opposed to no, but
I get it. No, you
um,
seem to be fine. Yeah, I mean, I
just
see
mess.
that you have a whole different. I browse through. You seem to have like quite a few followers still, and some of your campaigns have quite a few views. I know the For the Lord one's a little new,
Yeah,
so
I'm sort of like switching bait. Like that's what the argument now in the culture wars is. You're doing a switching bait on us with the
yeah,
all
right,
the DC and Marvel and Disney. So that's a
right,
whole
right.
nother, yeah. So that too is why I in Dungeons and Dragons, that's too why I was like I can't do this anymore, or I don't want to do it anymore, or the Holy Spirit is making me not do it anymore. But I was
Yeah,
relieved. I was relieved that I could get away from D&D 5e or
okay,
D&D just in general,
yeah,
because I didn't want to. I didn't. I love D&D. I love Marvel. I love Star Wars. I love
yeah,
all that Disney and
yeah.
and and the Mandalorian. I didn't want to give that up. But the Holy Spirit has sort of allowed me to, hey, you don't have to. You can move on. You can do other stuff. It's fine. And so that's that's where I'm at with that, or the
Yeah, I
last
think
6 months or whatever.
I was gonna say my subscription expires in April, so
Yeah,
we've got a
the
few
Disney
months
one.
left to watch a few more things.
I canceled Disney Plus, but then um, they wanted to watch. The family wanted to watch some football at Disney, or not football and NFL or the Super Bowl, and then I saw in the Disney and Hulu
Gotcha. Yeah.
or in Fox Sports, blah blah blah. So we did it, and
Right.
now that's over. I'm gonna of course, Mandalorian season 3 is coming up,
I know,
so I
right?
want to see if I want to hold on and see what they're doing, but that's probably going to
Sure.
be a deciding factor for me. Although
Yeah.
I could take it or leave it. I could end it if it's not a big
Right.
anyway. That's yeah, it's sad, but maybe it's true. The truth. Maybe we do need to start I don't know, getting separated. I don't know.
Well, I was going to say, actually, here's what I found. Since we're talking about, again, faith and games and all that, for me, I've dedicated so much since once I actually started producing this game instead of just having it as a casual thing I do in the background.
Uh-huh.
So Allies of Majesty has been around for or in existence for like more than 22 years.
Say it again.
I used what's that?
What's the title?
Allies of Majesty
Allies of
is the name of
Majesty. That's
the
your
role. Yeah, that's mine.
okay.
Yeah, and so I've had it, for playable for over 22 years,
Wow.
and it's in its like fifth edition. It's drastically different now than it was in its origins, but
Your own fifth edition.
Yeah, my own. Yeah, it's kind of a joke I had around that time where it's like, I'm in my own 5e. But no, it really it where was I going to go with that? There was something that you said that triggered that.
Culture
Yes.
war.
So I'm spending a lot more time now that I'm actually producing it. I'm spending a lot more time, um, like, just focused on the production. Like that's pretty much, other than my career and my family, that's all I'm doing is every spare minute I have, and instead of like having regular times where I'm playing video games or some other things,
Yeah.
none of that. I'm really not doing much of any of that. And so it's but to build the game world and do a lot of the lore, I'm actually studying a whole lot of ancient Near Eastern stuff, like biblical stuff,
Right.
and I'm studying a whole lot of just scholars on the stuff and just really digging into especially Old Testament stuff, like the New Testament too, but we know the New Testament a lot better than most of us know the Old Testament, and so I'm learning a lot about the Old Testament and kind of increasing that, balancing it out a little bit.
Yeah.
And but it changes your mindset when you're spending that much time. And then when I'm now like jumping in and watching, like I try to learn some stuff from Critical Role because Matt's a great DM, as far as that goes. I mean, I just watched it to see. I don't watch it like a lot of people do. I've watched maybe like, maybe 20 episodes total, total. And then I just checked out the Vox Machina cartoon, and I'm like, it's entertaining, but like I'm a lot more sensitive because I've been spending so much time removed from media, stepping back in. The crudeness and just the,
Yeah.
uncaring swearing, meaning like we'll
I
just
haven't watched
talk
it, so
about sexual things and swear to no end. And everything's, something censored. Like a comment is I mean, even the cleric has to, not that their
oh, I
words
haven't
is
even watched it, so I don't even know.
yeah. So my point being, though, I'm a little more sensitive to that, and it's like, I really could entertain this if it were, or I could be entertained by this if it were a little more like, it's kind of feel like it's over the top. So
And it's
I think stepping away might help. Like your perspective, it kind of changes things.
yeah, and they're making shows that are adult and perverse, but they're using kid medium, and that's
Yes.
and there's
Yeah.
no one telling them, hey, this is wrong, and it is wrong.
Right. Right.
Um, that's they're coming out with now. I think I saw a Super Bowl commercial. They're coming out with animal talking animals, and it's an adult movie, but it's talking animals. What is your problem?
I think
Anyway, this is not where we're
I'm going
supposed
to
to.
get
Yeah,
controversial in
yeah,
stating this. I'll just ask a question because I don't know the answer. I'm not saying I know the answer. Is I wonder if there's a little bit of nostalgia, of course, but being a nerd is a lot more acceptable now than it was, and so being able to, and I hate to put it in biblical terms, but I love to, um, cling to childish things, you know, is a lot more accepted now. There's not this people, the generation above you telling you you need to grow up and take these responsibilities and do these things. Being leisurely and playful and childlike is a lot more accepted now. And so then entertainment responding to what everybody wants is going to go into that medium. They're going to go into, you know, they're going to definitely capitalize on that. Just like sex sells, if nostalgic and childlike sells, then we're going to go into that too.
yeah. Unfortunately, they're putting those two together, and that's the point where we're
I
like,
know. Yes. Yes.
wrong. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's not what our subject's about.
No, it's not.
That's fine.
That's why I thought I knew we were going to get off on
Yeah.
controversial there, but
Wow.
that's what the edit button's for. No, no.
So
Whatever.
what you just said there, I love what I'm doing, like the putting my faith into role playing games and spending all my time doing this. Like, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I can't play like I guess Elden Ring or any whatever new computer games out. I don't want to do that because I'm gonna waste. It's a time sink.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was just saying. Yeah.
I have so much joy in just constantly tinkering with, the for the Lord, and it's
Yeah.
and of course my problem is it's for the Lord Dark Ages, for the
Yeah.
Lord post-apocalyptic, and for the Lord Christians in space.
Yeah, I know. I saw.
So-
I heard you say those things.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
Apostles of the Apocalypse. That's what I wrote. That's the title of the
Okay.
of the Apocalypse one. But it's the same rules light system, so you can have the same character, time travel or whatever, but it's timeline, but whatever.
That's so funny. We're
Yeah,
doing
same rules.
similar things, but in way different spectrums.
And
Yeah, that's
and I
hilarious.
really like that because when I first was starting this a few months ago, I only knew of two Christian role playing games, like the Holy Lands one,
Yeah,
which I hope is becomes more successful too, and then just the Dragon Raid or Light Raid or
Dragon Raid,
back
the
in the
one that
day,
got shut down by the Satanic Panic.
and you had to memorize Bible verses or something like that. I don't remember.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yep.
don't have it, so I don't know. But
I never played it either, but
yeah.
that's yeah. Yeah.
And then when I scoured YouTube and Twitter, I couldn't find any Christian RPG. Nothing.
No.
A couple of videos from two pastors, or I don't know who they were, but that once every 3 months they had a little talk and 12 views and no one, so it's kind of depressing.
Right. Right.
But yeah, now I'm starting to see you. There's a Kickstarter with a successful Kickstarter. They're doing a 5e. I don't know if you saw it. I can't.
Yeah. Adventurer's Guide to the Bible.
What
Is
was
that
it?
the one? Adventurer's Guide to the Bible to 5e or something like that.
Was it? It had an Old Testament one, and now they have a New Testament one that's just
Oh, I don't
happening right
know.
now.
Maybe I'm wrong on
Yeah,
that.
it's 5e. It's
Oh,
very
they have one happening now.
yeah.
So if they have one happening now, maybe I'm just not aware of that.
Oh, called Red Panda Publishing. Red Panda.
That sounds right. I mean, I could Google
Yeah.
it.
Anyway, but that was kind
But
of
yeah,
cool
I
to
mean,
see
if
that.
that's the one they did, then I think their other one was Old Testament-y.
Yeah.
But I thought it crossed into Jesus times. I don't know.
Yeah, I bought them. I just haven't looked through them yet.
Okay.
I'm just top of my head.
I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also, the without Kevin Crawford, the World Without Numbers guy.
Okay. Never. Yeah.
He did one, and it's Christian. It's called Wolves of God. It's over there.
Okay.
Wolves of
Yeah.
God.
I wasn't familiar with. I'm not familiar with him.
Yeah. I'm just. I have the book. I've looked through it. I have it. It's strange
Okay.
to me, but anyway, his theology was spot on. I was like, oh wow, this is pretty good. In there, I was like, oh wow, this guy's definitely a Christian or something. But anyway, I'm just kind of I'm encouraged in some sense. Huh?
I find that when it gets into things like the deeper I've got into like understanding like Behemoth and other things like that in the Bible, the more I understand where the mythology came from or the references came from and what they're referring to, then the more I've done that, the more I realize that, like, for example, I think Final Fantasy has a better understanding of what Behemoth is in their art than what a lot of Christian pastors have when they're talking about, well, I think it's a hippopotamus, or I think it's, a dinosaur, or, whatever. It's like, actually, like, for example, in that case, like, behemoth is plural, behemoth is plural for cow. And it's like, but when you use the plural instead of a singular, it's kind of like saying Elohim for God, like plural instead of Elohim singular, Eloah singular. And it's like the plural is magnifying. So it makes it bigger. So that's like super cow. But they have to look in the Bible where to translate it cow and, cattle, and where to translate it behemoth. But like their art, if you look at the Final Fantasy art, like they're actually making it like bovine to a degree. Like it's like a little bit liney in the front, but like you see the hooves and, like it's interesting. And it's like, wow, I find that a lot of secular people, because I don't think they're going straight to pastors to understand things. Instead, they're looking into the old, whatever's written, like they're looking into the lore. And so they sometimes get it closer to right than Christians do.
Oh. Behemoth,
so when you said his theology spot on, I'm like, maybe he's looking at, I don't know.
Yeah. What, one thing I had a guy tell me the other day, he that I know we do medieval armored combat, and he said he was intrigued by what I was doing because he has a summer camp and they teach about ancient history.
Yeah.
And and I'm like, awesome. Oh, and because my game is also to kind of get kids intrigued by the Dark Ages in history. Yeah. But he brought up, we teach ancient history at the summer camp. I'm like, oh, like what? And he goes, well, we teach about what do you say, the Egyptians, the Persians. I'm like, well, and I didn't bring it up because I was like, I'm not here for this, but I'm like, well, what about Israel? They don't want to bring. Exactly. They're not going to bring up Jerusalem or Israel. They're not. That's not part of ancient history to any education system. And it's like, but they huge impact on the ancient history and huge impact on modern history, and Alexander the Great went through there and talked to those guys,
Yeah.
and
If you just look at the spread of Christianity and what it did to, I mean, just the Roman Empire and beyond,
yeah,
if you, it's almost like how can you could you not spend a significant, if you're really talking about history, give a significant look to the root of that, where it came from, you
yeah.
know?
So
I mean, it's such a world changing thing. Yeah. So anyway.
yeah, and one other thing, like Christians spread, they use violence to spread Christianity. Like that's sort of
Yeah,
a
they did
common thing.
historically,
And I'm like, well, and in my
right.
game, it's like, well, if you come up to a village and they want to sacrifice their children, um, are are they going to just give that up? I mean, what do you do? You're telling us that we were violent. Well, they're sacrificing their children. I mean, stop doing that. Oh, okay. We'll stop sacrificing our children. Is that how it played out then? Or, there was violence. Sure. We have to, and and my game is sort of allowing that to happen, like allowing kids or families to see that, not with sacrificing children, but with, but at least with, the tribes and the pagans were not going to give up whatever it was they believed in did. That
Yeah.
was usually horrifying, it was usually terrible or oppressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
A lot of,
you know, so that's kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to show that
okay.
Christians, missionaries go out and do things, but there's foibles, there's mishaps, there's,
Sure.
and then the things that they come up against were idiotic, the concepts. Why not sacrifice? Why not slaves? Why not sacrifice? Why not give up
Right.
things but have fun with it and make fun of everybody, including the Christians.
That's what I saw was, you're having fun with the stuff,
Yeah.
from the little bits I've seen. I've watched a few of the videos,
Right. The playthroughs. Yeah. I'm trying to
yeah,
get
and of
those.
course your Kickstarter,
Uh-huh.
preview thing.
Right.
So, but yeah, some of the playthroughs, and I like how lighthearted it is, that you're doing. I like how you're just directly tackling it straight on. So what I found, and this is what Dragon Raid did, and this is what Holy Lands does, is they basically are trying to keep a fantasy feel,
Right.
like how D&D feels with monsters and other things,
Right.
but somehow make it Christian. And so I don't know the explanation Dragon Ray gave for why there's goblins and everything else, in there. I may be misquoting Holy Lands. I have two of the three books they have, but it seems, from what I understand, that they very much try to differentiate between holy and unholy, but their monsters are pretty much manifested spirits or demon possessed humans.
Mm-hmm.
And so you still have this fantasy feel, kind of, and but it's not, you're humans taking these things on. And your game, I liked that you were humans taking on human situations,
Yeah.
and you were actually, so it may be a limited window. I don't know how many people are going to be interested in, or not. I don't know how many people are going to be interested in role playing a missionary, but if you get them to try it, I think it's one of those things where if you get them to try it, if they're Christian, it'll be appealing. I don't know how many non-Christians it'll appeal to, but
Yeah.
that's true with anything that it has Christian attached to it.
Right.
That's one of the things that I'm dealing with, is how much, do I bank on or shoot for even a non-Christian audience. I played the God of War video game, that was based on Norse mythology. That video game, not the older ones. I didn't play the older ones, but in that one, I don't believe Norse mythology to be the case, and the game assumes it is the case. But I enjoyed the game, so
That's because we're Christian. We're okay with
yeah.
this stuff.
So it's like non-Christian, if they're not offended by the concept of Christianity, they could enjoy the game if it's a setting and not a sermon. I feel like the quoting the Bible verses and that in Dragon Raid might have come across Sunday schoolish, maybe, or like more like a sermon.
Yeah.
Like, you're trying to convert me, aren't you? I'm not trying to convert people. I'm just trying to make the game realistic and true to the faith.
I'm totally trying to convert people.
And I know yours is different. That's what I'm saying. We are going on two totally different, tracks and doing the opposite things, but I think our mindset is similar.
Yeah.
I think what we want is similar, and that's what intrigued me, and that's why I reached out to you.
Well, okay. So two points. One, I do have like Holy Lands. I do have demon
Okay.
possessed.
And I heard you mention that
and
once. Yeah.
and freaky, and you can go more freaky deaky if you want to. And
Yeah.
there's
Okay.
plenty of myth and folklore to back that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Evil
Sure.
spirits in the founding fathers, the early church fathers mentioned dragons, they mentioned spirits, they mentioned
Sure.
possessions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm gonna certainly push that to the nth degree if I can, but
Okay.
still try to keep it grounded in some reality that creates that myth or fear that people
Right.
are that that
Okay.
overgrows its boundaries in their
Yeah.
expectations. So like feral, like demon infested boars, demon infested giant. There'll be giants, but
I see.
10 to 12 feet
Yeah.
tall giants, not 20 feet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So you're having them be tangible physical things that they are.
like the Legion guy, I'm
Okay.
Legion. So you
See,
can
that's
have
different
Hulk.
than
You
that.
can have
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
hulky dude.
that's different and more realistic, I'd say,
Yeah.
or possible than my mental breakdown I have or disconnect I have is when it gets to, and it's fine if you're doing a fantasy, you just want to have a fantasy and do it. You're not going for anything that could really be. But I don't see when it gets to them not being like a demon infested boar or something you said, but more like just a this wicked spirit and you are fighting it like you would in D&D with a magical weapon or something like
No,
that. If you're making an allegory or something, I guess, or you're just trying to, explore fantasy, I guess, but we don't see, that's definitely not the way we see spiritual warfare happen in the Bible. We don't see humans taking weapons and fighting spirits directly.
right.
You know what I mean?
It's human. Yeah, it's a
And
human based. It's
yeah,
you're taking on a human who has been given a
yeah, and that's
strength
different.
or
That's really
craziness,
different,
a
you know?
rabidness, or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And that
It's
is a
in that
little less,
respect,
I wouldn't disconnect from that as easily.
right?
I think.
Yeah,
Yeah. Does that make
um,
sense what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. Because
Okay.
I'm going through that right now to see
Because you
how
got to have some
far I want to
questions.
take this or not take it as far as that
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a fun exercise, if nothing else, to explore that and do it. Yeah.
and then the second point, oh my God, what's the second? That was the first point. Then the second point, which you just said, ah,
Stolen the thunder.
uh,
Man.
what was it? Because you brought up something else that I
Uh,
wanted to tackle. Oh my gosh.
you're just
Yeah,
making me
I'll
feel
yeah, I'll
better
figure it out
for,
when I.
yeah.
What was the other thing? Oh, conversion and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I want this to be for now edification for us, for homeschoolers, for families, for
Got you.
Christians.
Yeah. Okay.
I want it
Yeah.
to be I want it to be an alternative. I want to say to Christians, you don't have to be stuck on D&D or
Right.
OSRs. They don't want, they don't want you, right? They want you to
Yeah.
leave as soon as possible. It's not white men that they want to leave technically, right? It's white Christian men. And if you're a black and you're a Christian and believe in the Bible, they want you to leave too. I mean,
I don't know how all that. I haven't
well,
dug deep enough in, so I'd be interested at some point to know
Kyle
more about.
Kyle
I
brings,
watched the OSR thing, but I just catch the. I
yeah.
watch summation. I'm more into the. I breast on the legal side of it than on the, for lack of a better term, woke side of
Well,
things.
the Watts, they're doing they're trying to do their rounds of interviews to try to repair the damage they've done. And Kyle
Okay,
Brinks,
I haven't watched those.
yeah, and Kyle Brinks said that
Okay,
he told the two black interviewers, the sooner white men can leave, the better for the game. And he said that a week ago, or a few days
wow.
ago.
Okay, so I'll have to go watch some of these videos then, because that's. I mean, I got the
So
sense
he doesn't
that
want you.
there's
He wants you to
a
leave.
very,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'll just say
Wants half of me to leave.
uh, there's an unnamed virtual tabletop that I won't name, and at one point years ago, like maybe 5-ish years ago, I approached them because I'm
Roll
doing
20. I'm guessing.
I'm
Anyway, go ahead.
I'm doing a significant app companion app portion to what I'm doing. There's a lot of tech involved. And a VTT would that what I was finding was no virtual tabletops because my system is so different than other game systems that they just there it took a lot of finagling to try and make it kind of work for my system,
Hmm.
but they were all set up to work with the big names. Like, hey, it's real easy by default, you can just run D&D. And they even had some slightly more obscure ones. I mean, I might offend a fan here by saying that Shadowlands is obscure, but comparatively Shadowlands is old school and not so much in the main thing right now. But like Shadowrun, sorry, not Shadowlands, Shadowrun. And but like that's one that like they even had stuff for that. And I when I talked to them, I kind of got the answer or the impression without saying it directly to me, but it was pretty that um, it may have been my uh, ethnicity or other things, my gender, but it definitely I don't think they wanted to work with. They didn't want to have their brand
Christian.
tied to anything Christian. Yeah, yeah, I
As long as
definitely
it's, as
got
long as it's
that.
pagan, you,
Yeah,
that's the thing. Just like you said, God of War. Everyone thinks God of War is a public domain, general, everyone acceptable thing. That's
yeah,
paganism. Paganism believes, yeah, everything's
yeah,
acceptable, just not Christianity.
yeah. Just not Christian. Yeah, exactly. And
just
that's the
just
thing.
not that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so oh yeah, so you were trying to develop it, or of course maybe it was Foundry. Anyway, you don't have to tell me, but
I said I don't want to name it because I said some not nice things and I don't want it to get around. But if
yeah,
you start browsing the internet, you might find other people having similar experiences.
well,
I'll leave it at that.
yeah. So for mine, I kept it simple so that in Foundry, I just need their basic simple thing, and
Yeah.
and I just use that. So yeah, okay. So let's go. Let's now finally after how many minutes? How many? 26 minutes. Let's talk about your game.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the
Yeah,
intro.
sure. Sure.
So,
No, that's fine. Um,
yeah. So the history of
so
it and just talk about it.
yeah,
Yeah. I want to hear.
yeah. What I'm trying to do is a little different. I'm really just trying to make it. Again, I'm not trying to directly convert people because I think that it'll have a wider reach even among Christians. I think that because you know what, I'll give credit to Andrew Lowen on this quote. This isn't an exact quote because I don't remember how exactly he said it, but this concept. Andrew Lowen is the creator of Deliverance board game. I'm giving him a shout out here, but he also has like angels and stuff, but his are more like a modern-y concept of angels, where I'm going like ancient Old Testament stuff, Hebrew. But anyway, he said that non-Christians don't want a game that wants to save them because they're like, I don't want to be saved. And then it's like, what are you trying to do? Like, no. And then a Christians often don't want it because they're like, well, I don't need to be saved. And so you end up having nobody that wants to go there, was his observation. And I get that to a point. Now I think that, again, if like you're going to with the targeted marketing you're talking about, stuff that may very well absolutely work. And if and again, you're exploring it, you're offering something different. You're not just offering the same game that is D&D but Christian. If all
Right.
you are is inferior D&D and Christian, you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, that's why I was interested. You're offering something different, and that's what I'm trying to do. Is nobody's really doing your characters are these immortal beings that have been around through all of history, and that are involved in everybody's the center of the story in most role-playing games. Like, you're like, hey, the story is completely all about us and my character and what I do with my character. And in
That
this
affects
case,
kingdoms and stuff.
yeah, and it's like, and in this game, in Allies of Majesty, you are serving two stories. You're an actor upon two stories: God's overarching story with humanity and what's going on there, and you're a participant in individual or small groups of humans stories, and you have an impact on their stories. So in all these cases, you're not serving to promote your own agenda, you're serving others. And it really is what Jesus talks about, to serve others. If you want to lead, you need to serve, and who wants to be first needs to be last. And so you're walking that out. And as distant as role playing an angel, maybe a spiritual being, maybe from a human, it's actually, when you get into it, very, very relatable to the Christian walk. And that kind of only makes sense because, according to Paul, we're going to have a different flesh in the end when all's said and done, and we're going to be like the angels. You know what I mean? We're going to be, or Jesus even said, you'll be like them. And he was talking about socially, but still, there's a lot of scriptures that talk about we're going to have a different flesh, and so I mean, maybe what their role is and what our role in being Christ-like is supposed to be isn't that far apart. But I find that in playing the game, you definitely get a better sense of what it is like to really be a Christian. You know what I mean? And you're role playing something greater than yourself and higher than yourself, and you can excuse it because you're trying to be an angel instead of trying to be a saint. You know what I'm saying? Like playing a saint is boring, but playing an angel with spiritual warfare and all that's exciting is what some people might think.
Right.
You know,
Well, it's
yeah,
you're kind of it's gonna you're correct me if I'm wrong, but like a superhero helping the people around.
it
You know,
really is. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
not
You're in most cases they don't know you're there.
yeah.
You know,
You gotta
in most cases they're unaware of
hide
your
your
presence.
identity.
So that is well, that's yeah, yeah. That's kind of a there's times where you'll appear to humans for something and stuff. I mean, what fun would it be if you didn't get to ever?
Yeah.
But
Well, it says the Bible that you
the
will.
Bible that you do, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so how many times have you unattained or entertained angels unaware and all that? Yeah. But it it really is, though. It's a different role playing approach because you've got to think creatively. How do I steer this person's thoughts or this situation to good? How do I prevent this person of evil intent? How do I help this person just pray and ask for the help that they need?
So you're talking about the player or the GM
The player's asking those questions.
as they play the angel.
Player
Oh,
is
okay.
actually, yeah, in their role, in their situations, is asking these questions. The GM, or in my case, the host in my game. I know everybody has to have their own name.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. It's D&D's fault because they took Dungeon Master from everybody, so everybody's got to make their own name. But anyway, the host often has to ask, how do I create that story? How do I set up a story in which the people don't feel railroaded,
Oh, oh,
how to do things, because the game is linear. You're if you're a servant of, is linear is not railroading though. That's an
no, no,
interesting topic.
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
even
yeah,
mind either, as long as the railroading
yeah.
isn't you're a jerk. You
No,
railroad
yeah,
them
yeah,
in the
yeah,
sense
yeah, yeah,
of
yeah.
you compel
So
them. It's got to be compelling railroading, not
exactly,
jerk
you've got to give
railroading.
them a reason that
Yeah.
they're not going to do other things. Like if I actually play I'm a completionist. Like if I'm playing a video game, I'll do the side quests. I got to do all the side quests. But then if I actually try to role play, because it's supposed to be a role playing game, if I put my mind in the character, then I don't do hardly any side quests because I'm like, why would I wait 10 years, not really 10 days or something, to go save this kid in the cave because I want to do these side quests? Like that's urgent. He might be dead,
Yeah.
you know.
It's got to be yeah, it's got to be
Yeah, so
compelling.
you got to
Railroading
make the
is
story
only
tell.
really
Yeah.
you're only going to complain about railroading when you feel like they're forcing something on you and you just
No,
don't
yeah,
get
yeah.
the point of it.
No, but so the way it's linear is a lot of times you're given a direct assignment. You're
Mission,
said
yeah.
you need to go do this thing or influence this thing or prevent that thing,
So that's what you
whatever
do
it
in the
is.
game, that you set it up like
That's a
that.
lot of what the game is. There are times where you could do like a long-term assignment. You're going to go watch over these people, and as situations come up, you decide how you're going to watch over them.
Mhm.
What's the best way. But a lot of times you're sent to, this person or these people prayed over this situation. You are the answer to that prayer. Go and address that situation the best you can. And if their prayer, there are times you'll be defeated. So there's no character death because you're immortal.
Right.
So you defeat that's another unique feature is, you defeat the bad guys, they'll recover eventually. You get defeated, you'll recover eventually. And so defeat may have consequences, like if you're trying to save somebody's life, that person, you might not save their life, if you're defeated and can't defend them. But otherwise, though, I mean, you grow as a character. You don't just lose your character and got to make a new character. You're a lot of the most formative moments in players' experience with the game is in defeat and how they respond to that defeat. And they suffer they suffer defeat, and then they see the most growth as a character, the most development. And I mean, any good movie, you're going to have situations where the protagonist is suffering defeat, or in a
Yep.
position of defeat. That's where they grow into the hero they will be.
Right.
So I love a game that puts you in that situation, isn't worried about, oh no, what if I total party kill? There's no worry about that. It's like you'll come back and you'll
You
come
just
back
failed that
strong.
mission, and then those
Yeah,
those
yeah,
people all
yeah.
suffer because of you.
Yeah, or something happens. Yeah. Or like sometimes you do everything right and the human makes a different decision still. The humans still do what they're going to do because they have, and you did everything you could, but you're kind of find yourself relating to God in those situations where it's like, I did everything I could. And look, here you are. Now I know you're I think you're more Calvinist in your so I try to keep the game. That's a good thing. I try to keep the game pretty denominationally agnostic.
Yeah.
I want Calvinists to or Reformed folk to put what they think into it theologically. Their twists on theology that may be different from like an Eastern Orthodox person or something else. I want people of various faiths, well, not faiths, sorry, various aspects of Christianity,
Uh-huh.
and even some even Jewish people really can if they stick to the Old Testament part, this is like
Right.
right up all their stuff.
Yeah.
It only differs when we get into the New Testament stuff. But anyway, I want people of that
Which I would
Judeo-Christian.
argue with doesn't really change at all, but
Well, exactly. No. That's a lot of what my game explores. That's a lot of what my lore
yeah.
explores. It's helping people that remember I said we don't really know our Old Testament as
I love
modern
the Old
Christians.
Testament.
I love it,
Yeah.
digging into it. But everybody, it's changing some nowadays. But people mostly preach off the New Testament, and when they do go to the Old Testament, it's just for a verse or
Right.
one little anecdote.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Um, so
I really didn't describe my game at all. I just
yeah,
described how it
I'm
plays.
confused. Yeah. No. Gosh, and when you're talking, I think of something and then I forget.
I
So,
know, I know. It's so
but what's the
exciting though,
setting though? What's the
because our
setting?
faith,
What's
our
the time
faith, when
frame?
we have a faith in everything, it does get exciting.
Yeah.
And there's so much we are passionate about.
Oh,
And that's what, is exciting. Okay, mark it
sorry.
down
I
or
got to write this down while you. Okay, I just remembered.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Mission.
stimulants. So,
Mission.
so my setting, I can sum that up briefly. The setting is any time in our world's history or
Oh,
near
okay.
future. It could be any time from creation until the end. It could be any time you want.
So
So if you
when you
want to
bring
say
up
the end isn't until the year 3000, then you can make it Space Odyssey or something. I don't care. That'd be interesting, but generally it's confined to our Earth generally. But you could get creative anywhere from the beginning to the end. But the spirit realm keeps a very ancient Near Eastern feel, a very Old Testament, a very Bronze Agey feel. So the way you fight, the weapons and you don't really use tangible weapons generally or armors and whatever. You don't have the way your characters appear because they're spirits is the way they want to be seen and the way it communicates something. So like if they present a certain face, it may just be their like the lion face on the warrior. It's that God created them and put this purpose, this warrior's purpose into them, and they display the lion face in as a symbol of their agreeing with that purpose and clinging to that purpose. So they don't have a literal lion face, but that's why you see that in biblical references.
right.
And that's where I start to stray into, meta or symbolic stuff. But the Bible is symbolic in a lot of ways. Like there's so many things in the Bible that have symbolic meaning. And we want to get hung up on the literal meanings and not look at what is the picture that they're painting.
Yeah.
What are they trying to tell us? You're a storyteller,
Yeah. Yeah. So for you though, with your group, what settings are you in like right now? Like what do you? How do you?
Okay, yeah, it varies. Like the starter campaign that I'm going to offer in the starter box when this is all released will be in Rome. First, like 300, right after Constantine said that Christianity is legal. That's when that story takes place. But like it just depends on who's running the game. I have like advanced play, you can get into actually maintaining a holy hold in like this related to some earthly thing, or stuff like I have a hold in 1990s Dominican Republic right near the border of Haiti, and there's a missionary that I have there that my characters, I have multiple when you get into this, in late gameplay. It's optional. It's not like you have to do it. Some people are like, I just want one character and I want to swing a sword and then tell me if I hit the end, but the people that want that depth, I have late game depth in the game. So
Wait, what do you say?
have
late game.
late game, tier, like higher tiers of characters. You can actually, like one of the
Later
complaints
in the
I've
game.
heard about D&D is that high level play
Right.
is late game is a video
I
game term.
right. I was
High
like
level play is
unwieldy.
not balanced and
Yeah.
unwieldy. And a lot of the Pathfinder proponents say Pathfinder's got that down and it's balanced all the way through. I don't know. I haven't gotten to late game or high
Yeah.
level play, but I have a lot of high level play options. As you progress in tiers in the game, new options of play open up to you. Things that weren't there before. They're optional. You don't have to do them,
Right.
but it's like you don't stay bored with the world, because new things open up. So anyway, yeah, I 1990s Dominican Republic with a missionary that's near Haitian border. So he doesn't go into Haiti. He's actually serving Dominican, but spiritually, my characters based out of there often have to go into Haiti for various reasons. So but then I'm dealing with what about the spiritual princes, the spiritual principalities that rule? Like, now I crossed in and I offend the prince of Haiti that comes and addresses me and, tries to keep me from doing that. And you know what I mean? Like you get into this Daniel kind of stuff, and that's where fantasy comes in. How does that really work? We're just going off the Old Testament ideas. And so like now, that whole story of being detained for 21 days or,
yeah,
it's
that's
like
weird. Yeah.
that can like play out,
Right.
like you're like, oh, and you're dealing with politics. Like, how do I help these people, but keep it on the down low enough that I don't upset these way more powerful spirits yet? Because now's not the time. If God told me to boldly charge him, I'd charge him and suffer defeat if I do, or God will bless my hand and I'll defeat them, myself. But otherwise, without that mandate, you're like, you got to play it smart. Like you don't go into China as a human missionary and just start handing Bibles out everywhere and throwing, you don't go nuts. Say, hey, I'm a Christian. Everybody have church at my place. You're going to play it smart, you know? And so same thing in the politics of the spirit realm with these spiritual rulers.
Are you talking about spiritual rulers in the sense of demons?
Demonic. Yeah. Like the rulers, powers, principalities, all that
You're
kind of
talking about
stuff.
them, and so
yeah.
you're saying the angel has to go through and figure out what
kind of deal with that. Yeah, because they
right?
exist, and in
Yeah.
the Old Testament, they're legitimate power. Okay, so let me get back to this. Ancient view. This is what I find again. So my game, this is where I try not to be a commentary on what I think is true or not. I just try to represent the ancient view that we see in the Bible.
Uh-huh.
So there's a lot of scholars that really dig into this, and this is one of
Yeah.
those controversial things. But like Deuteronomy 32 kind of presents the idea, and other things. Psalm 82 backs it up. There's lots of things that back it up. That post Babel, when God divided up the people, by their language,
Yeah.
he also disinherited the people until he called Abraham out as a sign of not giving up on humanity, and he assigned rulers, spiritual rulers, lesser Elohim from his divine council. Lesser, not Elohim is just spirit being. That's all that means. Like when the medium of Endor calls up Samuel, and Saul's like, "What do you see?" She's like, "I see an Elohim." It doesn't mean God. We use that term for God, but that's not all it means. So these lesser spirit beings, he assigns, angels, he assigns to oversee these, shepherd these nations. And that's where you get in Daniel the idea of the prince of Persia and the prince of Greece and your prince, Michael. So, like, even after he called out Israel, there would be this sense of that he still assigned Michael over them, even though they're his inheritance, Yahweh's, God's inheritance. He assigned Michael over them as a prince, oversee them. And so you get into this where then in Psalm 82, he's judging these. He says, Yahweh, it says, stands in his council and holds judgment in his council. And he stands among, it says, Elohim stands among the Elohim, is what the scripture says there.
Wow, I totally haven't gotten into any of that. So
yeah, it's awesome. It's crazy stuff. But see, what I'm doing is I'm not trying to say, hey, you got to believe all this stuff. I'm saying, look, this is in our Bible.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. Yeah.
Be interested and just explore it and see where it goes and see what it does to your understanding. So long story short, those they accept worship. These other, the angels, they accept worship. They start to maybe demanding it. They elevate the unrighteous and don't take care. They don't do what God says through the rest of the Bible. Take care of the needy, the orphan, the widow. Take care of these people. They're not doing it. They're enriching the wicked and all these things, and they're accepting worship for themselves. And he judges them and says, "Your time's coming." in Psalm 82, if you look at it.
Wow.
And then Jesus, a lot of his saying, the kingdom is now, this is the kingdom's here. It's come into the kingdom of God. It's come out of the kingdoms of this world, where the rulers, the spiritual rulers, come out of their kingdoms, because now it's not just for Israel. It's always, Israel's just been a symbol to the rest
Yeah.
of the world of I haven't given up. And always, if somebody came from a Gentile nation, God accepted them. Always, we see that all throughout the
Right.
Old Testament.
Yeah.
And so now it's Jesus is saying, look, and his work on the cross, he defeated these spiritual rulers. And now they're not just judged by God in Psalm 82. In the Old Testament, you've got them defeated through Christ's, sacrifice and death and resurrection. And they're defeated now, but then they're still allowed, because God wants to wait until, maybe some people go with Paul's talking about the fullness of the Gentiles. Some reason God's delaying out of mercy so more people can accept. But whatever it is, God is delaying. And so these spiritual rulers, although they're legally defeated, they're allowed for a time, just like where it talks about in Revelation, where Satan is upset because he knows he's defeated and he's been cast to the earth. He's not allowed to come talk to God anymore. There's no place found for him in heaven. But he's upset because he knows he has but a short time. And he goes to make war with the woman's other children, which would sound like Christians to me. But anyway, and that's what we see. So that's kind of the backdrop. Are you playing Old Testament, New Testament? Kind of shifts things.
That's pretty cool.
It's fun.
I'm definitely going to reread the Old Testament with
yeah.
I've read that. I remember that, the council and all that stuff. But and the angel saying I got held up. I'm like, dang, that's serious stuff, man. What is that? So that's intriguing.
And that's all I'm doing is making a playground.
Pick on that.
I want to make a playground in a role playing game to explore this in a way that isn't like you don't feel the pressure of, oh, I've got to believe it one way or the other and all this. Just explore it, have fun. And that's why that's why I'm trying not to necessarily say I'm trying to convert people, because if I'm doing that, then I've got this thing where I've got to present what I think is the best theology. Right. I'm just trying to present the source material. That's what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
Yes, Jeff. Yeah. For mine, that's the one I was trying to remember. I'm not trying to convert people either. And I'm trying to keep the theology just at the planning church level.
Gotcha.
Where you just trying to get them to accept the Christian faith. And then if they do, you get to plant a church, you bring in some clergy, and then you're off to the next mission. So it's really that. That's
kind of Pauline kind of.
That's the depth of it. I don't want, it's not a theology debate between you and the Duke or the pagan. It's more of just stop doing horrible things to other people.
Okay.
Or we'll stop you from doing horrible things to other people. And then you're just going to, and then we're going to plant a church here. And then and then you get your glory points, your experience points. And,
okay.
And then move on to the next one. So it's basically that over and over.
Yeah.
And it's mission based because I can do like a hex crawl type of thing at some point with it, which is what I'm doing for the apocalyptic one. That's much easier.
Okay.
But for the initial one, I'm doing it more mission based, like it's go to the next town and see what's up there, what's a miss there, what's a miss there.
That makes sense
for now. And then if someone wants to create a more roaming around the Germanic forest hex crawl, that's fine by me.
Yes,
but
that's another thing we're opposite on. In the sense of you are very rules light. Let's just have fun. It's very heavy into the role playing, which is awesome. Yeah. And the people that want that experience. You can find it in Allies of Majesty, but not. It's there, but it's harder because it's easier to put yourself in the mindset of a human. The first thing I have to tackle with people is, are you expecting a certain behavior out of me? How do I role play an angel? What's okay? Am I allowed to make a joke? You get into that kind of stuff, and it's like, yeah, just chill, dude. First of all, we're just playing a game, so be yourself and have fun, but also just understand. Being yourself shouldn't violate certain,
what's your
moral things.
What would you compare your system to? Like the D20 and D6?
Well, that's what I was going to say. So every role, it's okay. You know what? I just recently played a game for somebody in the hero role playing system, and it's so crunchy. The hero role playing system is so, but it's more crunchy in the character building, not in the actual gameplay as much. But it is crunchy in the gameplay too.
That's like superheroes.
My character build, yeah. Well, they can do anything. You can do anything you want. It's been around. It's in its 6th edition, I think. They had the Champions version of it, but it's Fantasy Hero, and there's all kinds of But it's made to be anything. like anything from superheroes to knights and wizards. But anyway, I think because if you say Pathfinder, then I would say you're still expecting a lighter game than what I have. Um, well, but the thing is, okay, so it's
Your character's never going
intuitive.
to die, so might as well go in depth.
People, yeah, exactly. People say this. It's a learning curve, but once they tackle the learning curve, it's intuitive. I get that. I get the word intuitive a lot in the feedback I get. So, and I have lighter versions that you can kind of introduce people, but that's why I'm making an app. I prayed about it. This is God here. I wasn't gonna, okay, 18 years ago was the last, well, now probably 19 years ago or so was the last time I thought about or actually seriously tried to considered publishing. Back then it was, how are we going to get, who do I get to publish it, and how am I going to get it in Christian bookstores? That was the mode. There was no self-publishing, and we actually had Christian bookstores then. We have very few now. I think they should be on the endangered species list. Yeah. Yeah. So exactly.
Christianbooks.com, that's all I know.
Yeah. No, I mean, but brick and mortar stores, it's like, they're kind of in a lot of ways, not just Christian bookstores, but yeah. But anyway, and then it was, I prayed and God was like, it's not ready yet. It's not the time. Don't publish this. No, don't do it. I had a couple opportunities early in. And so then, around 2018, end of the year, like November or something, he was like, hey, the game you've been working on all this time and everything, and you had this one dream you didn't understand, and you were just waiting for me to tell you what it meant someday, maybe. That was what this dream's about. You need to publish a game. I'm like, now? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh. So I really start digging in and working really hard on this. But shoot, where were we going with that?
To the game system. What kind of game system?
The game system, yeah. So how he inspired me to do it, though, was he was like, what really got me going to where I started hiring artists and paying people was it was, hey, here's an idea for an app that will go with it. Hasbro had not bought D&D Beyond at this point. None of that stuff was happening. And it was some ideas that will definitely go beyond what even what they're saying. Not virtual tabletop. I'm not trying to go there. I'm not trying to do Unreal Engine and all that stuff. I'm using Unity, but it will manage the flow of gameplay. A lot of app games that I'm seeing keep trying to take away what the GM does. They try to handle that for you, make it like even D&D's talking about an AI GM. Yeah,
AI DM
or DM, yes, AI DM. And so mine is just trying to reduce that crunch. And I have some ideas of ways that people that want to micro make those micro decisions, the tactical micro decisions, still can, but the other people will have a way to mitigate that and avoid that. And I'm purposely not sharing it openly right now because I haven't advertised it yet.
Yeah.
But it will mitigate that. This idea that I felt like God gave me, and I was like, wow. So then people that want the crunchy game, like, okay, let's compare it to Catan. Settlers of Catan, right?
No, I mean, I know the game, but I've never played it. Never.
A lot of people would know. So there's base Catan, which is really like simple, and then there's a couple expansions like Cities and Nights.
Sure. Can I pause real quick?
Yeah,
I gotta say my daughter's leaving.
Yeah, okay.
I'll give me 1 minute, okay? We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Remember where you left off?
Yes, Catan
thing. All right, and the game system. All right, hold on a second.
A lot of people will know. Okay.
Settlers of Catan.
A lot of people will be familiar with Settlers of Catan. And there's the base version, which is very simple. And then there's a few expansions that really make it a little bit more complex. I mean, it really doesn't make it that much, but it's like,
does it have dice?
For the example, yeah, like Cities and Nights, and then there's like the.
I mean, does it have dice?
Oh, does Settlers of Catan have dice? Yeah. But it's like a Monopoly style. Like I'm saying, like you're rolling 2d6
right,
or something like that. Yeah, it's like simple dice. But anyway, it's kind of like, so you're saying the people but there's a debate among players. They either want the simple version or they're like, no, we need Cities and Nights and all these other things. Like we need those other expansions, right? And so, there's the people that want the complex version of it and the people that want the simple. And I'm like, you mean they could each get what they want out of the game at the same time? Like the people that want that simple experience can get it, and the people that want the more complex experience can get it at the same game in the same table. Wow. So that to me was like awesome. And that's going to be one of my real value propositions, is trying to say, look, opposites attract. Usually your friends don't want to play the same type of game you do because you're different personalities.
Mhm.
So if you can get the experience you want without forcing them along, but you can also let them have the experience they want largely without you being bored to tears at the simplicity, or vice versa,
Yeah.
so that's kind of the cool thing.
What is it? What is it, like a D20 or pool dice,
It,
or
it's 7 D12s. Every roll
7 D12s?
is
Okay.
7 D12s. Yes, numerology. You get a little bit of a. I don't try and work actual meaning into the biblical numbers of anything, but I do a lot of nods to numerology. Like
All
you'll see
right.
all kinds of 3, 7, 12,
Yeah, yeah.
40, 144, all that stuff. Yeah,
That's funny.
or multiples of those things.
Yeah.
Yep, 24, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I play with that a little, and like I don't want to go there. Like in the
Yeah. No,
in
it's
stuff.
yeah, I don't if you wanted to actually assign meaning to it,
Yeah.
it'd be, you can't make a fun game, balanced game and do that. That's not
Right.
going to happen. But I gave a nod to it. Like I know it exists. I know that
Right.
that numbers are important. Um yeah, but the role, it's really kind of it's very dynamic, because with 7 D12s, it's each one. So, okay, imagine you're shooting a basketball free throw, and you might be the same person shooting the same hoop with the same ball, but one time you'll make it and one time you'll miss,
Yep.
and what's the difference? And that's what we do with dice and games, is we kind of represent, we're saying,
Right.
well, maybe the wind shifted if you're outside, or maybe you were standing a little bit, your thumb was a different position, or who knows, right? But point being, that's what the randomness of the dice is. Well, each of my, like in an attack, for example, each of those dice, it is not a named aspect, but each of those dice represents some aspect of how you're attacking the individual and
Mm.
how they defend themselves. And so, like, there's positive results, neutral, and negative, and each certain number, like 9 and above, 3 and below is negative, 9 and above is positive, the middle ones are neutral. And so, based on your skill versus mine, so let's say I have precision, and you're the character I'm attacking, and your guard is your defensive skill. We'd compare like my precision and your guard, and whoever has the advantage gets to look at that dice roll and then adjust it in their favor.
Mm.
And the greater your advantage, the more adjustments you get. So by looking at that, though, it's kind of fun, because it's like, if I have 3 successes that aren't canceled by negatives, because they kind of offset. If I have 3 successes remaining, I'm going to deal a different amount of damage than if I had 1 success, or if I had like 7 successes or something.
Right.
Like your damage is very dynamic in that regard, based on how well the roll went. And I can sit there as a GM, as a host, and I can look at it and say, oh, there were 4 successes and 3 stops, 3 negatives, or whatever. So those 3 offset. So it's like, that would be the 3 negatives are like their defense, active defense. It accommodates for the enemies or the target's defense. So it's like, hey, you put up this valiant, awesome strike. It was very, you came in, they had them kind of dead to rights, but at the last minute they throw up their shield and block it, but your sword comes off, and still bites into their shoulder just a little bit on the way by, like a flesh wound.
Yeah.
Like you can describe that just by looking at the dice results.
Right.
You don't have to, but
Yeah.
just
So
fun.
what are you providing then to people, like a box? You said a box set,
Yeah, what I'm developing right now
right?
is, I have all the rules on a wiki right now. You can go there and look at it, for free. So it'll be free in that regard. The app itself will be free for players up to a certain point, but the app is the single most expensive part of my
Oh,
project. So I have to make some money somewhere. It'll be
yeah.
small things and maybe some cosmetic style microtransactions, optional microtransactions,
Have to
but
get them microtransactions,
what's
otherwise
that?
have to get them, otherwise the game's broken. Microtransactions.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't want to do the thing where it's like, you don't get, like, I don't like this, what I'm hearing rumored, that like D&D is saying, look, you don't get access to these subclasses without a subscription. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Well, the levels and stuff.
yeah, so like that's kind of the weird thing. I want people to have access to the entire game without microtransactions or something else, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to stay away from subscriptions, but I might have to do like a small annual subscription or something, like $12 a year. I don't know that. Don't quote me on that price. I've got to do that was just throwing out a
Yeah, yeah.
weird number. But point being, um that's what I'm looking at. But like,
Is it a
uh
book? Can you get a like a hardbound book? Is it going to be like a
yeah,
thick tome or?
so the rules are in a wiki. The app will be a downloadable product. I do have the starter box, which will have a, just kind of intro, how to play the base rules kind of thing or something in it, in a starter campaign. But then the other product, the book, that's an interesting one. I'm not committed to this, but this is my intent. The rules on the wiki can be updated any minute, and you don't have to rebuy books. I don't really like that you're buying third edition, fourth edition, fifth edition, all these editions of the same game. And I know that some of them had some major changes, but for the most part, it's like you're buying the same books again that you've already bought, if you're a longtime fan,
Yeah.
6 times, and you're not getting new value added. You are maybe with a new system tweaks, but to me, I'm like, how about, instead of, that's the old school mode, is you got a paper book, and the minute you make a change, it's outdated. How about I have digital rules that I can change as we test and feedback comes in, and nobody has to buy a new book. And the book that I provide, it would still have the art, it would still have all the concepts, the stuff that you browse the book for. When you look at a role-playing book, and correct me if you're wrong, or if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong on this, if you think differently. But when most people are looking through the book, it's for one of two purposes. They're either looking through to just browse, and they're looking at the art, and they're reading the concepts, and they're reading about the world, or they're making a character or referencing rules in the moment, and they need to find the exact thing they're looking for when it's a reference book.
Yeah.
Would you say that's true?
I get what you're saying. I think I might have a niche opinion about this, but
Well,
I
no,
do.
but people do, and I need
Yeah,
to
but I do.
understand of the breadth of
I
opinions.
don't. I think you should include the rules. I don't mind. I love having a book with the rules and
Okay.
the campaign and
Yeah.
everything. And then if there's errata, if there's new changes, I'll whatever. I'll go get it or not get it.
Okay.
But if you feel like the rules are fleshed out enough and you've played it like
Yeah, I
that,
mean they're 20 something years
yeah,
developed,
exactly. Then I would put them in because I would love to have them in my
Okay.
hands.
Well, I'm
You know.
looking also at the ability to get a printable PDF or something, or some kind of something.
Yeah.
The idea with the lore book would be that it's kind of like a coffee table book for Vikings or something, where like it has National Geographic, like it has all the art and the cool artifacts and all the things you want to know, as far as about Vikings, and it has, you're looking at the pretty pictures and you're reading about Vikings and the world
Yeah.
of Vikings. And so that's kind of what I was thinking of doing. And that way, though, with the word searchable wiki, at least when you're playing the game, people have, once they've tried it, people that say, "Oh, I want a book." Once they try it, they don't say, "No, I don't want a book anymore," but they say, "Wow, I underestimated that wiki." The ability to just type in the word you're looking for and quickly find the rule you're looking for, and not slow the game down.
Yeah,
Uh,
I use 5e, the
yeah,
5e tools or whatever. I use
yeah,
that to when I'm
yeah.
DMing my last vestiges of
So
D&D
yeah,
stuff.
so I'm
But
I'm open,
yeah,
but
I
I
still have
got
it
I
in my
did,
hand though, the rules.
but it's hard for me to do both.
But
Maybe
yeah, you
I
decide.
might even say, hey, look, here's the wiki to start. Here's the lore book. If I get enough demand, that'll be the next
Yeah.
crowdfunding project or something. Because
Yeah, it
I've
could be
already got
a
myself so sunk
yeah,
in,
you could, do a special edition or whatever at some point.
yeah,
That's
I'm open to that. That I think that
start
after the
with the
rules have been
wiki and
played a
then
little bit
yeah,
longer, I
yeah.
think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, after public
Yes.
consumption, you can then come out with a special edition. That'd
Yes,
be
I
neat.
think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
That is a great idea. Because by then I'd have more
All right, you
time to get
give me
more
5%.
art. I was gonna say, by that time I'll have more time to get more art and stuff too. Because
Yeah.
that's one of the things that will hold me up, is
So
I
you're good.
have art, but yeah,
You want more.
I want it to be.
But you're
That's the thing. I don't want to be a knockoff. I don't want to be viewed. I'll just say this: my opinion. I could be wrong, but my observation and opinion is that, opinion based on observation, is that because we're a Christian product, we're going to be judged more strictly. And so if you have a game that's of similar quality to mine in the production, and it's non-Christian, people say, "Oh, that's an indie producer," and okay, that's an indie game. That's an okay and cool one. There's a reason it's not up there with D&D on the production quality. Well, some people argue that on their books and stuff, but that's another thing. The binding and stuff. But then on the other side, if it's a Christian product, it's like, see, Christian stuff is so cheap. It's always so lame,
That's me.
like, well, but the thing is, though, I like what you're doing with you own it. Like you have a low budget on it. You got the big googly eyes.
Cartoons,
It's
yeah,
funny. You're not presenting it as if it's serious.
yeah.
And that's the thing I think that turns people off is they try to present a serious thing, but like a movie, but the quality of the acting and directing is about the quality of a high budget church play, and so but it's released in a theater, and it's like, so I get what they're trying to do, but people will judge that more harshly than like an indie film, because it's a Christian film. So now it's going to get, so I want the quality to be there. I
Yeah.
really want the quality to be there as much as I can get it.
Yeah. I've never been a polished guy. Even when I worked in the industry, the CG industry, I was always the guy that did the rough cuts or the
Okay.
animatics
Yeah.
and I was
Sure.
fast and furious when I did it, which they
Yeah.
liked. So, but I
Yeah.
never did the polish, and I don't have that mindset in my,
Okay.
what I do. So that's kind of why I went with everything I did, the cartoony look, the rules light. It's all just,
Yeah.
and it
Well,
all
I hear
kind of
you're
logistics came together, that
yeah.
way. Yeah.
I hear you're fleshing out more stuff. Like I've heard you on a couple of your videos talk about these things you're developing. So
Yeah.
I get it's kind of like you're like, here it is.
And
And I'm throwing that idea out there and I want to make this. And then I'm working on these ideas. That was interesting stuff to listen to. Yeah.
and I did, hire people for artwork and stuff for different projects and stuff. But what I did, for me, I didn't like the delay. I have, I wanted
There's
to
a
have the
delay.
immediate,
There is a delay.
I need this and I need it now, these characters
Yeah.
and this
Yeah.
this setting, and I need to throw it in there now and I need to play it this week. And so I said, I can't.
Yeah, you're doing live play
Yeah.
that way. I'm doing live play, but nothing that has, like, I can still grab some random piece of art on the internet that I could
Like
never publish because it's
imagery,
I don't have a
yeah.
license to do that, but I could use it in a virtual tabletop,
Yeah.
for a second,
Sure.
and then be
Yeah.
like, okay, look, I'm not giving it to people, and
Yeah. Yeah. I
and
need
people put it out there on the internet to be, you can download it off Pinterest or whatever.
Right. I did a
Yeah.
ton of that when I was doing D&D and Star Wars, and
Yeah.
it was fun. But then at some point, I'm really like, well, I can't just keep taking other people's artwork.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I'm only doing it in a pinch on the artwork I
Right.
don't have. The more artwork I get, the more
For
I'm
your own
filling
thing, sure.
my own stuff. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that delay part. And then, so I have a background in art, so I like,
Yeah.
it was funny is I lost my ability to draw there for 10 years. I just couldn't draw at all. I was like, it was painful. And I just had to force myself to, get that, it's
Like
obviously it's
physically?
cartoony.
Like physically?
No,
or just
mentally.
painful, like mentally. That's
Mentally.
what I thought you meant, but
Yeah,
I didn't
mentally.
know with all the
Well, I went,
maybe you had like
no.
maybe you had a battle accident with your
Yeah.
medieval battles. I don't know.
I got my wrist crunched.
You said that the helmet really like I see I pay attention. The helmet like acts like a shield, like it just doesn't feel the same getting hit in the head. But maybe that one time,
I got
kind of left you and I can't do my art for a few years kind of
There's a
place.
well-known Polex guy who rang my bell, and for the one and only time I've ever got my bell ranged, and it was crazy. I was like, wow, this is what a concussion almost feels like. I didn't go out. I didn't get knocked out. By
Okay.
it was it was interesting. I like, did I have brain damage
Yeah, so
from
you
that?
might have had a concussion still because just because you didn't pass out. I don't know.
Well, within a minute or two, I was fine.
Okay.
But I was,
okay.
and it was giddy. I had a giddy feeling after that. But
All the natural chemistry kicking in.
well, you want to feel things that are extreme and crazy, and that
Yeah,
was one of them.
yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
But
Seriously.
anyway.
Yeah. I can imagine.
So yeah, okay. So what is your time frame then? When are you gonna boom, this is my thing? What do you think?
I've always respected companies that have ever done this. I think Blizzard was that way. Before
I worked at Blizzard.
I was gonna say before Activision. I don't know when you worked there.
There, I worked at right after they came out with Warcraft 1.
Okay, yeah. So this is back in those
Two
days
days.
where
Yeah,
like
like
when they release stuff, it was when it's ready. You know what I mean? When we get it
I was there.
ready.
Yeah.
You know, at least that's what the public perception was. And so you might have a different story on your end, but that's the attitude I like is
Oh, so
I've
you don't know
waited
when? So
20
you're saying you don't
something
know when
years.
you're going to?
Well, no, I waited 20 something years. I don't want to shortchange something because of just a
Okay.
self-imposed.
No, no. Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah.
But if everything goes well, if I can get, because funding could affect this stuff, and with crowdfunding, it's really important. I've seen the the more you show, the more you can raise, the more you're actually professional look, polished. If you
Not
don't have
me.
something of quality, it's not gonna go anywhere. If you don't have something, yeah, but your goal is what, $2,000,
Yeah.
like that's different. Yeah. So yeah, like I mean, my goal is it depends on how much funding I can raise, but I mean, I might have I'm definitely gonna be in the high tens. It might be, a $100,000 goal. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know where my goal is going to be. It depends on the funding I get beforehand,
So you're just
and
working on
what
now
my
just to figure that
minimum,
out.
because with crowdfunding, it's a game. You've got to do the minimum. Now, don't be dishonest. I don't want to be dishonest, but you got to do the minimum goal you can do and still actually publish it
Pay your people.
as soon as you exceed it, it kicks in the algorithm and how much you exceed it. And so it's one of those things where you want to set the lowest goal you absolutely can. So I haven't figured that out yet. But point being, next first half of next year, first 2/3 of next year, like before August of next year, would be the hope. But it all depends on how well I can get
Wow.
that developed, and have a best foot forward scenario.
And the thing is, you said it could be at any time frame. So what? So you can't like you're.
Well, that's why I focus
How
on
do you?
having a theme for the spiritual realm. So all I need to do is have a scene, a story scene, like what you find in D&D books and stuff, or these role playing books where you see characters in an obvious situation. So all I need is a scene showing, like, I mean, I'm totally making up things I might do, but like a scene showing an angel, a messenger manifesting, appearing to an Old Testament prophet, and showing them a vision.
No, but
A
I mean,
scene showing like a somebody on a World War I or World War II battlefield, a medic, and then there's like this ministering spirit aiding their medical efforts. Like all I got to do is show a few different
yeah, but you have to
scenarios so people
create
get the idea.
for the host. You have to give him that setting so that they can kind of work with that setting. And you're saying
Yeah.
it could be any settings. I'm like, well, what kind of a
Well,
resource
yeah,
book
and
is that?
so yeah, so that's another thing that gets into other products I can produce. So how do I do? I'm looking at setting books,
Right.
and I could take requests or whatever, but I'll probably start with the default plan
Okay.
without fans acting upon me.
Yeah.
Would be probably like I had an idea of maybe starting with ancient pantheons of pagan pantheons,
Uh huh.
and and if I start with the ancient ones, I don't think there's any Babylonians going to get upset with me, so I don't have to worry about being politically correct in that
Yeah.
regard. If I talk about the demonic powers behind the Babylonian pantheon, if I get into more modern stuff, I might risk, we'll see where God leads me on that. But let's say I do that, and then I get into Roman stuff, and I get do these stuff that are more biblical
Right.
times, but I want to do if I get a lot of call for no, we want like
Modern
the more
day.
modern you get, the more diverse, so like it's like I don't know that I'll be able to the more I guess what we know about the world goes diverges from Christianity. Like now an Asian campaign is kind of a thing. I mean, it could be an ancient thing, but like somewhere in like as far as like a Chinese culture or Japanese culture, the more there probably wasn't a whole lot of positive in the ancient world as from a Christian perspective, from a biblical perspective, a whole lot positive going on there in Old Testament times. So the more modern times you get into, now it's like, well, do I make a Chinese book, and do I make a Native American book, and what do I do? Do I make a European Revolutionary, or not Revolutionary War, but that's ours, American, but European, like
French
whatever,
Revolution.
yeah, French Revolution or
That's a
something.
dark principality
It
right
just
there.
gets I don't know. So I kind of would have to, if
So
I
you're gonna
get modern with those, I'd have to like take requests in a sense of what is, if there's a, what are most people wanting.
Yeah.
And so, but your game handles a lot of the modern stuff, more moderner, or more modern than this. You're still what, medieval ones, one of yours? You have a space one,
And so I
and
have
then
the
you have
Dark Ages,
dark,
6th century, and
dark
I
ages.
I
Yeah.
chose that period because it was nice and dark,
Yeah.
and so I quasi, I could do any kind of quasiness out of it. But I'm researching it. It's pretty fascinating what I've been reading.
Yeah.
And then
See,
the
yeah. That's me
post-apocalyptic is
remembering something.
2200 AD. It's Earth based. Like I feel like we're going to be sent. Christians are going to be persecuted and sent to gulags,
Okay.
and then the atheists are going to learn that traveling between stars, because I'm a creation science guy,
Yeah. Yeah.
the time dilation is there, so that it doesn't take that long. That like we
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
they leave the earth, and then they bomb the earth out of spite, to get rid of Israel and
Yeah.
Jerusalem and the Bible. But we survive the
Yeah.
gulags in
Yeah.
our prison
Okay.
camps, the blessing in disguise type of thing. And
Yeah, that
so
makes sense. I like it. I like it.
and so then they rebuild their little communities and realize we got to go out now and re-Christianize the earth,
Yeah.
mission work and
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
survivors.
It's almost like, yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah.
there's gonna be mutant bugs and all kinds of fun
That's
radioactive
fun.
zombies, and I'm gonna
Oh
do
yeah.
total gamma world. But you're a missionary and you're going out looking for
Yeah.
survivors. And it's
Yeah.
hex
That's
world
cool.
based. It's
That's
hex
fun.
crawl. Yeah.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for real.
I have a show on it now. I haven't released it, uploaded it yet, but I've been doing it with some of the actors, and it's been really great. I really love it.
Okay.
It's kind of distracting me. That one, I'm doing Christians in space. Feels very much like Star Wars, so it's
Yeah.
very distracting to when I'm my Kickstarter. But whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
My family keeps bugging me. They're right there, and they keep bugging me. But yeah. So I'm excited. I'm just having a good time, and I'm assuming you are too. And
Yeah.
and as
Yeah.
Christians,
Exactly. I'm just seeing where it goes.
as,
I wouldn't be taking this big of a risk if I didn't have God saying, like the app, I wouldn't do that if God didn't give me on multiple occasions like ideas for
Yeah.
it. Like, this is what you need to do. And
Right.
like that was the impetus to move. And I'm like, okay, I guess I shouldn't question that,
Yeah.
And then once that stuff happened, like D&D made their, Hasbro made the purchase, and then they're announcing all these things. I'm like, it might have been providential that I'm already pretty well deep into my own app at this point.
I'm just
We'll
hoping
see.
I'm hoping it's God's will what I'm doing, but I'm just
You just,
going to persevere and truck along and
yeah.
let him do what he wants to do with me. So,
Well, what you're
um,
doing at this point, I think you're pretty. I don't know on the back end what you're in on things, but I mean, it seems like it's fairly low financial risk anyway.
oh
It's
yeah,
just time. So the good news is, on the time side of things, since you're kind of new in, and I get to be the old grumpy veteran man now, because I've been doing this for decades. The time you invest in creating your worlds, just the thought process, you're already seeing this. Um, is going to be so valuable to you, whether the product goes anywhere or not. It's life changing, because you're really digging in. Like I said, the Dark Ages, you're doing a lot of research. With my starter campaign, in that time, I was really researching what would the climate be, what would the culture be in Rome at that time, how would it be for Christians, and I had to think, what might the Christians be thinking? Are they skeptical about the change? Are they timid about it? Do they think, great, God's going to conquer the world now? And do the spirits, because they're not all knowing, do they have the same experience? Like, are there some holy angels that are skeptical about this change, and that, or some think, hey, we're going to take down the Prince of Rome, spiritual Prince of Rome, and we're going to convert all this, is because Jesus wasn't that long ago, and it's like, this is the beginning of us taking, where do they think that's going to go? So then that's what you get to explore, and just thinking about that stuff, putting yourself in the mindsets of other Christians throughout history, and learning about those times. Really, just, I find that the people I respect the most, I find that, not respect, what's the word? Not always are they respectable. The people that I think are the most well-rounded people are the people that have traveled the most, that have experienced the most cultures. I think they usually have well-rounded views on the world, life, social things. And
I don't travel that much.
well, I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding. I
But
had to
but
do
in I don't either.
No,
I
I've
have
been
some,
around.
but I was gonna say, I have traveled some, but not as much as some people that really is their hobby. But as you're digging into the Dark Ages, you are traveling.
Yeah.
As you're studying the history, you are to a degree traveling. You're putting yourself in the mindset of a different people in a different time in a different, climate, socially, politically, all that, religiously, and you're growing as you do that. And that's what our games will do,
Yeah.
is put people in a different perspective, get them out of their, Western style of life,
Comforts and
and
stuff.
get them in the mind of somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been fun. I can't go back. It's
No,
I'm
there's
having
no
such
going
a
back.
I have such a great time. I'm glad I'm free from that, and I'm doing this, and then
Yeah.
and having a kid pray as their nun is going to go on this journey, in this adventure, and pray for that
Yes.
adventure is just a wonderful thing to experience.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you know, uh,
The beginnings of this was as a youth pastor. I was a youth pastor, and I had, like, several groups, like three or four groups at a time of, like, 5 or 6 players or so, that would show up on our allies nights, and we'd do, have multiple games going in the same room. And it just having scenarios where you're doing all the same role playing, but you're getting to openly address and include your faith in it, in that thought process, and praying before you start your game session, if your group's cool with that,
right.
or whatever. Like, that stuff is irreplaceable. One of my best testimonies, this isn't one of the best ones, I've got several, but one of the ones that was funny, since we were just talking about the youth pastor thing, is I had the senior pastor come up to me at one point and say, "What have you been teaching my son, Michael?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, I thought I was in trouble. He's like, "What have you been teaching him, in the youth group? What have you been
The
teaching?" I said,
Bible.
well, and so I said, "Well, what I mean, what's this in reference to, so I can better figure out what you mean?" And he said, "Well, he's been consulting, or like asking his mother and I before he, like, does things a lot more recently. Like, how did you do that? Like, he's actually been asking their advice or their opinion on things, before he just does what he does." And I was like, cracked up. And I said, "Oh, that's not what I'm preaching in the youth group. That's the role playing game." They were in situations where he's an impulsive kind of person, and he gets himself in trouble. Well, in the role playing game, his characters did the same thing. The leaders for that mission were discussing how they were going to proceed into this scenario, and he wanders off and does something that kind of like a buffoon in a movie, is like, "Oh, here we go," or just, like Peregrine Took in the Lord of the Rings thing, where he knocks the thing down, and
Or
there's all
Leroy
this,
Jenkins,
and
that
and
little
then
Leroy Jenkins
everybody,
thing.
like, comes. He just alerts the entire, like, dwarven cave of enemies to their presence, and they all come storming in to fight them.
Right.
It's kind of like that. Like, he would had situations like that, and then in our discussion post mission, people kindly said to him, "Look, I understand you might not get into the tactics side, the pre-planning tactics like we were getting into, and you might be bored at that point in the game. So, just, if you don't have to participate in that part, but just ask the leadership before you go, ask other people before you go off and just do your own thing,
So as an angel, you can
to
just
make
go off
sure
and
we know what's
charge
going."
recklessly.
Yeah. So, like,
Cool.
as he changed that behavior in the game, he started to change it in his real life. So, I mean, that kind of stuff comes in,
Edification. When
yeah,
you're that's the thing
yeah,
about role playing games. People, we learn to work together, socializing,
exactly.
and Christians
Yeah.
are missing out on that hugely.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're missing out on
Yeah.
sitting around together, working
Yeah.
out some faith things, or how we
Exactly.
verbiage, and then, but also it's funny because they're constantly arguing too. We got to work that out too, like in
Yeah.
a fun
Yeah.
way. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's what role playing games do. They help you kind of just get out of your shell and do
Right.
crazy stuff. And
But you don't walk away offended because it was not you, it was your character.
yeah, and you're
Yeah.
trying
So you can
things.
take that feedback. You can take that feedback from to a fictional character
Yeah.
easier than you can to yourself. But what I found is, as these teenagers were, and young adults were giving feedback, critical feedback to each other, sometimes they were given encouraging feedback as well, and lauding things that were worth noticing and applauding, which also doesn't happen enough in our life. But anyway, they were applauding the good things, but they were also offering critical feedback. And as they were able to do that, they got in the practice in the game of speaking up and offering critical feedback, and also receiving it humbly. and receiving the criticism with the critique with the
Right.
applause. And as they did that, I started noticing that they're like they would literally say something like, which you'd never see, like, "Hey, I think you were kind of short with your mom there, don't you think?" Like after that interaction, and they're like, "Yeah, you're right," and then he'd like apologize, "Sorry, mom," like, "I'm sorry to talk that way," or whatever. Like those kind of things were happening because of their interactions in the game.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, that's invaluable, that
Yeah.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Just getting the kids to pray in the game is great way to get them. Oh, I could pray
It
like
is.
this
Yeah.
in my own life too.
Yeah.
It can be a
Absolutely.
little fictional. It can be.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
needs
Yeah.
to be. Even your own
Yeah.
prayers are fictional in a sense. They are
Exactly.
because you're pleading.
I think I
You're
see what you mean. Yeah.
yeah. Like I really want this, Lord. Please help me.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Like that's it is fictional in that sense. You got to fantasize about what it is that you need out of yourself through God
Yeah.
to make that prayer anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I see.
it's not the intent is not fictional,
I know what you meant
but
now.
yeah,
Now. Yeah.
but the the creative anyway. All right, so I think let's end it here. I think we've exhausted the entire realm of Christian role playing games, and I just want this to grow. I want the culture of Christian role
I
playing
do
games
too.
and
I do too.
types of games and discussion of it. I want to go search on YouTube and wherever else and find a ton, not just three, a ton
Yes.
of us
Yes.
all
I
yip
agree.
yapping with each other.
I
And
agree. I
yeah,
know I'm not very discoverable on Google. I need to improve that. That's one of the things I'm working
yeah.
on.
But
But
I hope there's more of that.
I will say there's a rush of Christian recent in the last couple of years or so.
Christian
Uh,
what?
Christian board games,
Board games.
quality board games, not just knockoff Pictionary or something.
Right.
Not like Bible Pictionary, but like a for
Yeah.
real high quality things.
I hate
So
board games.
we'll see. But
That's good to know.
we
That's
may be
good
on the verge
of the
of. I know that
RPGs.
there are some in development video games as well.
Yeah. Well,
That are
RPGs
decent.
is a good way to
You know?
start because it's accessible
Exactly.
and indies can do it. Us indies.
So if they're doing it, we can do it. But the reason people don't jump in on the RPG versus the board game is I've discovered RPGs are not easy to make. You got to provide a lot. You got to provide a whole world. You
That's
can't
true.
just give a backdrop and say this is the theme of the game. Here's the mechanics play.
Yeah.
You've got to flesh it out, and that's the part.
Well,
It's got to make sense. I know what
yeah.
you're saying.
There's
I know what you're saying.
like Morkborg really helped me understand that I didn't have to go that in depth as I wanted to.
Okay.
I pared it down so much after reading Morkborg and Mothership.
Okay.
And
So what are those? So I haven't. I'm not familiar.
I do recommend them just so well. No, your game is quite different, but
Yeah.
Morkborg and Mothership are very pared down.
Okay.
Mothership
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
like alien
Yeah.
sci-fi,
Yeah.
and then Morkborg is just silly, like Warhammer 40K, Warhammer Fantasy gone
Oh, okay.
stupid,
Yeah.
and
I see.
but
Yeah.
fun and silly.
They're game. Yeah, they're game settings. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
the game setting is like Warhammer Fantasy, but even more ridiculous and comical. But
Yeah.
the game system is literally you got to roll a 20 to hit, and you do damage based on the sword. The different
Yeah.
weapons
Yeah.
D12,
Yep.
D10,
Yeah.
and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like,
Well, and then,
it's kind of
yeah,
funny.
there's definitely
But,
room for that for sure.
but I really enjoyed that. It freed me to realize, oh, I don't have to make it D&D 5e or
No, you
or
don't.
anything like that.
No. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I
You're
took
right.
out levels. I don't have levels.
Oh, okay.
So
Interesting.
you just buy your skills. I took
Okay,
out
you
character
buy
classes.
skills. I see. That's interesting. That's good.
Yeah, I took
Yeah.
out character classes. So there's 4 you can start with, but but then you can just pick and go wherever you want from there.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, I want more Christian RPGs, because I really, for me, for now, it's to help other Christians. That's kind of
Yeah.
my goal at this point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
get them an option, like, so they don't have to go to
Yes.
5e or don't have to go to,
They don't have to
to-
go to these things.
that
I'm not
don't-
saying
that
they
don't
can't
like-
play these things, but they don't have to. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
they can invest in this for their kids or for their brothers or sisters who
You know
who
what?
need this.
Yeah, that's who I see this appealing to a lot are people that are Christian or open to it that want to play. I'd say probably Christian that want to play these kind of games with family, children,
Introduce
wife,
them to RPGs.
people that aren't necessarily RPG players,
Right.
and whether they are okay with the other themes and stuff in other RPGs or not, theologically, whether they're okay with that or not, their wife may question it, or their children, they don't want to necessarily present this certain aspects of things to their children.
Yeah.
They don't want their, children encountering certain things or whatever. And this is a way that's just a nice, safe, and it mixes their faith in it. I think they won't realize the value like what you're just realizing because you're doing it. Most people probably won't realize the actual joy of mixing your faith in
Yeah.
until they do it.
Yeah.
I think of it like I say, it's going to be a lot of people. Christian RPG setting is going to be people's favorite ice cream flavor they've never tasted. They don't know it's their favorite ice cream flavor yet because they haven't tried it. But once they do, they're going to love it.
Yeah, every Christian actor that I've gotten to play this, they had no idea what this was or what they don't know what I'm talking about. But they kind of vaguely know D&D and all that.
Yeah.
But then as soon as they played it, like, oh wow, this is totally, I get it. This is like
Exactly.
this is fun.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Yes.
Wow, like they're just totally like this is nothing. It's fun. It's good. We pray and and I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta keep going. I gotta keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And yours is great for that. Yours is especially great for that. Yeah.
Yours is gonna to me. It sounds like yours is gonna be like, okay, we've been playing this For the Lord RPG for a while. Well, let's get serious now.
Yeah, or
what's
like
out there?
Somebody's like, I wonder if there's something that's
hardcore.
Yeah.
All right,
but we need it all. You know. Yeah.
So, if anyone has gone this far in this video, please contact us. Let's build a community of Christian RPG people. That's what this is about, and
absolutely
have more discussions and keep going and have fun. All right. God bless. That was wonderful to talk to you, Anthony.
Thank you. It was great meeting you.
Yeah. Let me stop recording now because I got a silly question. All right.
Yeah.
Where's my window?